Hey, it's Jason from Bohemia Bees, and it is harvest time. Yay! Well, we're going to try to harvest. These supers are getting a little heavy, so we've got these benches propped up. We're going to go ahead and start the harvest here at the Bohemia Apiary before these bees get a little mad at us. We're going to show you how we do that here. There's a several step process, so this is going to take a little while, maybe a couple videos, but we'll do a couple steps and then show you how we do it. The first step in any process of harvesting is really to get the bees out of the super. You know, naturally you're going to want to make sure that you've got good solid capped honey in here to harvest, and we'll make that evaluation once we get it into the honey room. But we're going to go ahead and do the first step, which is to make sure that we've got all these supers off. And we're going to start with this first colony, which has been here the longest. It's an overwintered colony. And so we're going to pull the lid off here. It is a packed colony. So the one thing that I can easily do to do that is to do something called a fume board. And that fume board is really just a solar board with a felt top. And we're going to use something called Bee Done. And I've made the surface of that felt. And we're going to take that and set that right on top of the screen inner cover. Another good reason why screen inner covers are great, because we don't have to worry about removing it if it was a solid inner cover. I'm going to put that on there. The sun will hit the top of that cover and push that scent down in through the screen inner cover into the top super and probably down about halfway, maybe down in here. What you expect to see is those bees will start to push out the front and probably down either out the front on top of the super or down out the front of there. We may have to remove that screen inner cover if they start to beard on the front a lot more, but we're going to watch them here for a few minutes and see what they do. I'm not going to really like the scent of that, but we're going to go and watch what they do and then go from there. This is the first step in the process of going ahead and extracting honey. We got to get those supers off. Let's go ahead and watch. All right, so we're going to check this out. It's been about 10 minutes. They seem to be kind of away from the top screen. Let's see if they're moved down the supers. Huh, pretty good. Looks like this super's somewhat clear. So this Bee Done is a smelling combination, is a pleasant smelling combination of natural oils, non-toxic, and contains no alcohol. So it's really just there to clean the supers out. And we're really just to try to get the bees to exit out for us as we remove these supers off. So I'm going to remove this first top super. It'll probably be obnoxiously heavy, I'm sure. Yep. And then I'm going to put that fume board directly on top of the next super. See if we can get them pushing down a little further. While I get this one cleaned up, I'll bring you with me. So this is a honey super. A lot of burr comb. We'll clean that off. We got majority of the bees out of it. I'm gonna pull a couple frames out here for you so you can see. Won't show you on all of them, but we'll show you this one. Still a couple bees here left on it. A lot of the cleanup I'm going to do in the shop, but I just want to pull a frame out, see how it looks. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is what you look for. Fully capped honey, all the way through. We're going to clean the frame up, uncap these, and we'll bring them in the shop. This is the top super that we saw. And I'm going to look for some middle ones here, just to look for all capped. And I'm going to move them over to my box. Make sure I get any bees off. Beautiful frames, beautiful honey. Girls are still trying to work these. We're going to get these last bit of bees off, and we'll bring this in the shop. Clean up the frames. Probably about 9 frames of about 65 pounds of honey. When I lifted that off there, that's about what it felt like. They're all fully capped. Looks good. I'm going to take my box, cover it over. This will keep the bees from wanting to go back in. Scrape my burr comb off. Larger operations will actually just pull the supers out of the apiary, and I'll do that as well here when I get going, but I'm only pulling a few boxes off because I'm only doing them very slowly because I don't have a full-scale operation here. And that'll become my next box to fill. All right, so we'll go ahead and pull the next box off. It should be out of the next super, and we'll continue on. Thanks for watching. Hey, Jason from Bohemia Bees. We've got that super we've pulled, and now we're in the second part of the extraction process. Just a quick tour of the honey house. We'll kind of give you a walk through real quick, just some of the tools and a quick tour of what we have here. Ultimately, we want to get our honey in the bottling state to where we can sell it like you have over here, right? So a couple stages before that, though. We've got our box here that we pulled from the apiary, and we've kept it here with a lid. I usually use a lid underneath just to let any of the honey that drips to drip down the bottom. You can see there's our frames that we'll extract and uncap. We have our uncapping tank up here. This is more, again, for more of a hobbyist. If you're a sideliner or a commercial, you definitely don't want to have this small of an operation. You want to definitely have a little bit better of a setup. But this is for more the, kind of in between a hobbyist and a sideliner setup. So got my extractor over here. The way this will work is I'll pull my frames out of these boxes and I'll put them in my uncapping tank up here. We'll uncap them. And then any of the uncappings will fall into the top, drain to the bottom, and ultimately drain and be strained into the bucket. The honey will be strained into that bucket. And the frames will be put into my extractor over here, which will be ultimately extracted into this bucket down here and strained as well. We'll help with that strainer over here. And some of the tools we'll use, we've got a couple different tools we're going to try. Actually, your standard uncapping knife. We have a fork, a roller, which will basically just score your the lower pieces. This is if your cappings tend to be a little lower than the frame and you can't cut them with the knife. This is just to clean off some of the residue of the honey that sometimes just gets on the side. You want to force it along in the bucket. Any of the honey that falls into the bucket that we can't strain with the metal strainer, we want a little bit of a tighter strain. We'll use the 400 grain honey filter that gets a little bit cleaner of a strain. We're going to try this new tool that we've seen floating around this year. I'll do that on a couple demonstrations. You'll see a video on that. Ultimately, we really want to make sure that our honey, if it's capped or if it's uncapped, we want to make sure that it's less than 14% moisture before we bottle it. So any honey that's suspect, we're going to test that before we do that with our refractometer. So we use that as well. So those are some of the tools that we use here in the honey house. Just showing how we do that, and we'll have a couple of videos here as we continue to do the extraction process. Appreciate you watching, and follow along here at Bohemia Bees, Bohemia Apiary, in the honey extraction process, where beekeeping is more than just a hobby, it's an obsession. All right, so this is a frame, fully capped honey, both sides. We're going to go ahead and cut the cappings off. I like to trim the bottoms best I can first. Go back and clean them up as well. The burr come off the tops. Usually you want to start at the top. Drop your knife in along the top rail and bottom rail, and then let the knife do the work, and use a sawing motion to cut the wax cappings against the wood frame. You'll get honey that will drop down into your cappings bin, and then you'll have a clean cut frame with honey in it still. Flip that to the other side, and you're going to do the same thing on the other side. And if your bees have done a good job and you use the 9-frame spacing in your supers, you will not have a lot of low spots, which is the goal. You'll notice in this frame you'll have all the honey. You'll see a couple dark spots or lots of dark spots. That's the pollen. That's why raw natural honey is so good for you.
because they have little bits of pollen throughout the honey. So that's an uncapped frame, and I always take the opportunity to clean up since I'm going to be using my wax cappings in my melter. I'm going to go back and clean up these frames, because I'm going to take these frames and put them right back in my my hive after I extract them. So I'm going to do as much cleanup as I can, even though some people may say that takes a little longer. A clean frame coming out of the extractor is an easier frame to deal with going into the colony. One less thing you have to do at the end. You can also do some of the cleanup in the beginning if you have more than one hand. Several steps that some people can do. This is when your fork is helpful. You're going to pull off your wax cappings that stick to it. And they'll come off in the extractor as well. One thing I also find easy is if you've got a big amount of propolis buildup on your sides, you want to run that down the side too. Clean them off. Just got to be careful. Don't lose your frame. That's why that knife is so nice. And that nail is so nice. Not necessary, but I like to clean it up. So there's my frame. I'll drop that in the extractor. Okay, so now we have 12 frames in the extractor, ready to go. Let's get this thing spinning. This thing started up. That spin for a good 5 minutes, get all the honey out. See it spinning on the walls? That's the way it goes. Up the actual screw just slightly enough to be able to lift it up, and you're going to put pressure on this end of it. So when you put pressure on it and you press in, it almost only allows the honey to come out the bottom. If you let no pressure on that lever, it actually rides up the side and creates a big mess. But if you do it with a little bit of pressure on that handle, and as your honey starts to reach the top of your bottle, you shut it off. You can control when it comes out. And you really shouldn't have, you wait for a second and you can capture the drips in the bottle. And then you have a pretty clean bottle of honey. Well, that's the process. We've gotten the frames pulled from our colonies, we've uncapped them, showed you the tools that we've used, extracted the honey out, and we showed you how we filtered it and bottled it And that's the process how we do here at the Bohemia Apiary. Some may do it a little different, but that's how we do it here. We're always trying to perfect what we do and make it a little easier, make it a little better. And we're always learning here at the Bohemia Apiary, where hobby beekeeping is definitely more than a hobby. It's an obsession. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can follow along, share with your friends. Appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot.